I'm Marta. I'm the Director of Children, Youth, and Young Adults.
And I'm Allison. I'm the Worship and Art Liaison here at Middle. Will you pray with us?
God of creation, thank you. You are in the very ground beneath us, in every blade of grass, in that cool drink of water in the summertime, and in the air we're breathing now. May we find space to wonder, to be in awe. And may the words of our mouths and the meditations of all our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O God, our Creator and our Sustainer. Amen.
Amen.
If you have ever had the inclination to join us on the blanket for the Message for All Ages, today is your day. Wait. Here, right in front today. I know. You're so excited to come up to the stage. Today you get a front row seat. So parents, you're also invited to join. You're invited to join your young people if you'd like, or the young at heart if you've thought, oh, I really want to get in on that blanket action. I see some young at heart coming.
Come on up, young at heart.
Yes, Mario. There is room for all.
Come on up.
Yes, I love this. So today is an extended Message for All Ages. So we have our young and young at heart right in front. I love it. We might be coming down at a few different points to get your input, to ask a question or two. Our blanket is wide today. I love this. So be ready, because we might come for your help at some point. So be on your toes and be tracking with us. Sound good? Cool? Okay.
To begin, close your eyes, please. Feel the ground under your feet, the ground under your bum. Exhale all the air out of your lungs. And then take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, HA. Continue breathing through your nose. Your eyes are still closed. Notice what the air feels like going in and out of your nostrils. Can you smell anything? The cologne or perfume of the last person who hugged you? The lingering scent of an orange you ate for breakfast? What's the temperature of the air on your skin? Do you have goosebumps? Is anyone touching you? Exhale everything out again. All of it out. Inhale deeply. Notice what is happening to your lungs, to your abdomen. Can you actually feel your heartbeat? Hey, that's our life. Keep them closed. Wonder. Now, when I have you open your eyes, what is the first thing you're noticing? Is it color? Is it the whole space or one particular thing? Open your eyes. Look around. Is there something that caught your eye that you've never seen before? What about someone's face or the color of someone's shirt? What about someone's hair or the beauty of that person's neck? What about the wrinkles around someone's eyes? What about your own hands? Wonder. May we begin to wonder.
I want to tell you about one of my earliest childhood memories. I was growing up in Colorado, so it was a place that I could have lots of space for wonder and exploration. I would spend hours outside riding my bike, climbing trees, playing with neighborhood friends during the summer break, only stopping when the sun started setting, and then quickly plotting out our next day's adventures before we went inside for dinner. I was particularly fascinated by caterpillars and toads. I would try my best to create homes for these critters. I would get mason jars and shoe boxes, and I would fill them with dirt and leaves and grass, because I wanted to make sure the caterpillars inside my jars and the toads in my shoe boxes, that they had a home, that they had water and food, that they were taken care of every day under my daily watch. my parents would eventually say, you need to release these creatures back into their natural homes. But I was determined to see a caterpillar go through its different evolutions, waiting to become a butterfly, and all those croaking toad families that I would find in my neighbors' window wells, where they had basement windows, they kept me mesmerized all day. I was a wondrous kid inside nature.
And so, our first question is, what is awesome about nature to you? What makes you wonder? And Marta was telling us about her. I used to love snow. What is wonderful about nature?
Caterpillars and butterflies.
Can we try it one more time? Say it one more time.
Caterpillars and butterflies.
Yellow.
Caterpillars and butterflies.
I like those too, Serena. We're the same.
The seasons.
The seasons.
Winter.
Winter.
I like
What about nature is awesome?
I like trees, leaves, flowers, buds in the spring.
Yes.
That it's all living.
One more time, Henry.
That it's all living.
That it's all living. That it's
I
all
like
living.
that nature gives us vegetables.
Yes.
Hamsters.
Oh, did you hear that, hamsters? These are truly wondrous things. Marta and I both speak a little bit of German, and my favorite German word, so there's Marta.
There's me. See, I have binoculars ready to find all those little critters in nature. And even Allison.
In the snow.
Who said winter? Who said seasons? Good ideas, good ideas.
Now, Marta and I both speak a little bit of German, and my favorite German word is the word spazieren. There is no English equivalent in my mind and heart. It means part exploring, part walking, part family, part stopping, part talking, part nature, part community, part hiking, part looking, part seeing. This was one of my favorite memories of being in Germany, spazieren. And then I learned a Zulu word, Ubuntu. It appears in South African sources as early as the mid-19th century, and Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu began using the term when they transitioned to democracy. It means, I am because you are. And I expand this not just to human beings in our lives, and all human beings, but to the animals, to the plants, to the water and the air. We exist because there is air and food and water and earth and each other. Today we explore wonder and we explore care for the earth in our expanded Sermon for All Ages.
In July and August at Middle, we've been exploring the question, what does it look like to walk the talk as a current day person of faith? And one answer that immediately struck both of us was creation care, caring for the earth, being stewards rather than simply consumers, and examining how we're responding to climate change right now. Now, our elementary students at Middle, many whom are down here, they've also been exploring what it means to care for the earth during their summer months in the Ark. Using the parable of the sower, they've been looking at what seeds need to grow and what humans also need to grow, examining challenges the planet is facing, and finding ways that we can work together to care for the earth. They're making connections between global food systems and waste systems, and they've even evaluated Middle's recycling plan. They even have been caring for these plants that they planted earlier in the summer. You'll have to get a close-up look later, but they've been watering them and observing their growth each week. So today's sermon, like the youngest, is the name of it. And that phrase comes from the passage that Ellington read earlier. And it comes from the words of Jesus. So we invite you to consider how you might learn from our young people today, looking at the mindset and approach of the youngest.
Like the youngest certainly rings true for both of us because we are both Aries babies. Now, I don't know how into your astrological signs y'all are, but my best friend Job knows a thing or two, and he reminds me almost daily when I come to him with the woes or the joys and all the woes and all the joys. He says, "You are Aries, Allison, the first sign of the zodiac, and therefore always a child." Have you seen Marte and myself running around with boundless energy? Have you noticed how Marte is planning amazing events all summer to connect middle church community? Have you noticed that we sit near the front, not only to be in the best seat for all of the action, but also to keep us from being terribly distracted by all of the stimuli? Marta and I feel connected to the message for all ages, partly because it is her job, and partly because we are forever children.
It's true. It's true. And it's no secret that Allison is a bottomless well of youthful energy. We see that every week in her work in music and arts at Middle, and we love her for it. But the flip side to youthful energy is that Allison and I often get caught up in feeling all the feelings and wanting to respond to all different issues and injustices in the world. So much so that we often end up overwhelmed and feel like we don't even know where to start. That's often the case when it comes to global warming, when it comes to responding to climate change. It feels like this huge boulder that's on the edge of a cliff, that it looks like it's about to fall down to the ground, and there isn't enough work we can do to push it back up onto the ledge before it drops down. It feels like there's little we can do. So I'm wondering if you've heard the term eco-anxiety. No? Well, it was coined in 2011, and the American Psychological Association describes it as the dread and helplessness that come with watching the slow and seemingly irrevocable impacts of climate change unfold, worrying about the future for oneself, for children, and later generations. Does that resonate with anyone? Eco-anxiety. One of the July issues of New York Magazine, it has me terrified with eco-anxiety. The title is The Doomed Earth Catalog. When will the planet be too hot for humans, plausibly within our children's lifetimes? That's the title alone. You should peek at it more if you have a chance. It's from last month. But the author, David Wallace Wells, says that climate change is a far nearer threat than we realize or like to acknowledge, and that rising sea levels are only a small piece of what is to come. He seems to even hint that our actions can't reverse much of the direction of global warming, and that terrified me even more. But I have to push back a little. As a person of faith, I am called to show up. I'm called to respond even when something looks impossibly bleak. That's why we march. That's why we protest and join all sorts of resistance efforts. Right now, we have a president who still refuses to acknowledge that climate change is real. And at the beginning of June, he withdrew the US from the Paris Climate Agreement. Keep in mind, the US is the world's second largest polluter, and 195 other nations have remained signers on this critical agreement. Our current administration feels like the type of rulers Jesus was referencing in the passage that Ellington read. It says, kings and rulers like to hold their authority over people, reminding them who is in charge. But Jesus said that is not the way we are to operate. Rather, we are to be like the youngest and be like the one who serves. So my next question for you friends down here is, where do you see the earth in trouble? Yes.
Antarctica.
Say it again.
Antarctica.
We got yellow again.
Antarctica.
Ooh, Antarctica. That's very specific, and you are right. Ice there. Where else is the earth, ice melting? Where else is the earth in trouble?
Africa?
Oh, we're going through continents. Yes, and you are so right. Where there might be issues of rich countries not taking care of other poor countries and droughts. Thank you.
Maybe the North Pole?
The North Pole. These are specific geographical areas. I like these, you guys.
Asia.
Asia. Let's keep going. We know our world areas, friends. Maybe some rainforest deforestation. Okay.
The Arctic.
The Arctic Circle.
The Amazon.
The Amazon. The Earth is hurting in all these places. Yes, Serena?
Snow.
Snow. Sometimes we have not enough snow or too much snow because our planet is freaking out and sick.
North America.
North America, where we are too.
The Earth.
The Earth in general is hurting and sick. You guys are right, and you know that sometimes we have leaders who are just arguing about whether the Earth is even sick at all and whether we should be responding. But y'all know where the Earth is sick and where we should look to help.
The scripture today talks about a dispute among the disciples. They argue over who is the greatest, speaking of the White House. This argument reflects a lack of awareness of our identity and place in community. This is the exact opposite of Ubuntu. I am because you are. Ellington read about the benefactors, those who exercise authority over the people beneath them. Benefactors are supposed to be workers or doers of good. But here in this scripture, the benefactors are more like people who like to throw on their weight and show how benevolent or giving and good they are with fancy titles. The benefactors wanted to be seen as the greatest while oppressing people beneath them. Jesus said no to that type of leadership. Jesus says that our identity and our relationship to one another and to Mother Earth are determined by the standards of God's kingdom and Jesus' example. God's kingdom is where everyone has enough, and we don't harm one another or the earth in getting our needs met. Jesus' example is that we serve, period. Our small actions, walking the walk, work toward making a difference.
Did you hear about the gift that Pope Francis gave to the current US president when he visited the Vatican a few months ago? It was a signed copy of Laudato Si, which means, like, we give praise to you, but it's the pontiff's 192-page work calling for a new partnership between science and religion to combat human-driven climate change. So it's a little smart gift thrown in there. Amid acknowledging in this document that climate change has grave implications, that global warming caused by rich countries has drastic repercussions on poor areas of the world, and that the global community has not acted enough, the document also points to individual actions, stating an integral ecology is made up of simple daily gestures, which break with the logic of violence, exploitation, and selfishness. The Pope says we should consider taking public transit, carpooling, planting trees, turning off lights, and recycling. And while I might not agree with every point in the Pope's 192-page document, I appreciate that he highlights simple, everyday actions that we can all incorporate into our lives. And I like that everyone is a part of the solution to climate change rather than waiting on the people who are in power to do what is right. At Middle, we take this to mean that we are all leaders in responding to climate change, the youngest as well as the oldest. The kind of service Jesus was describing acknowledged that it was easier to be the one who sat back at the table. It's much easier to be the one who is served or the one who expects someone else to make a change. But he was calling his followers to a different approach. Jesus' model of leadership wasn't about exploiting all the privileges he could have expected. So our approach to one another and to the earth must be the same. Rather than living as though we are entitled to the earth's resources, how do we take on a posture of gratitude and humility and service?
So our last question, how are kids How are the youngest helping to save the earth? And or what are you doing to make little differences?
By no littering.
No littering.
Littering.
French. Planting new stuff.
Planting new stuff.
Or maybe Ruby Bridges.
Learning about Ruby Bridges.
Ruby Bridges is a great
Thank
example
you.
of a kid making a difference.
Growing plants.
Growing plants.
Picking up trash when it's on the ground.
Yes.
Helping plant your neighbor's garden.
Helping plant your neighbors.
Charity.
Giving to
Charity.
charity, yes.
Give the homeless people money and food.
Yes, giving the
Learning about the earth.
learning about the earth, yes.
Saying please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Nice, Demi.
No smoking.
Okay. Okay. All right. Like the youngest, you heard it. Oh, we also heard cutting down on caffeine. And you know what? That could also be like just consuming less in general. Less aluminum cans, less empty coffee cups that we throw away. And the last idea I'm hearing is don't waste batteries. And think about where batteries are going, not, oh, we just have more ideas coming at me. What was the last one? Reduce, reuse, recycle. That was a good summary of all of them right there, Zemi. So in that New York Magazine article that I was talking about earlier, the one that seemed kind of bleak and like, do our actions even matter? The climate scientists who studied just how grave and imminent global warming really is are still described as these unexpected optimists who say, we will find a way to forestall radical warming because we must.
To put it another way, one of our favorite politicians, Kid President, said,
Yes.
doing nothing is a great way to change nothing. Kid President also says, if it doesn't make the world better, don't do it. So what are your practical ideas? Will you visit a farmer's market this summer? Will you carry reusable bags with you to the grocery store and department store? Will you pack your lunch in glass containers rather than Ziploc bags?
There was a story in The Atlantic last week that had a really practical suggestion. It might seem far-fetched to some, but go with me. It said that if every American made one dietary change, substituting beans for beef in their diet, beans for beef, if we were willing and able to do that, hypothetically, the US could still come close to meeting its 2020 greenhouse gas emission goals pledged by President Obama in 2009. Isn't that amazing? Even if nothing about our energy infrastructure or transportation system changed, even if people kept eating chicken, pork, eggs, cheese, this one dietary change of beans for beef, substituting one for the other, this could achieve somewhere between 46 and 74% of the reductions needed to meet the target. So that kind of action, it seems out there, but how can we be a part of the solution right now? Maybe you're ready to try vegetarianism or even veganism. We got some cheers for that, yes. We even have a vegan meal later today in Chat and Chew. Or maybe you want to initially embark on doing meatless Mondays with your friends or family. Together, these kind of dietary changes can really alter our collective carbon footprint. What does it mean to be a current day person of faith? Well, when it comes to climate change, it means responding as a global participant in caring for the earth.
There's always the temptation to stick with what is familiar rather than entering new patterns and ways of being. In the commentary that we explored on the book of Luke, it states, in times of crisis or stress, there's always the temptation to deny the ways of God's reign and return to the familiar patterns or exercises of power. When there's dissension in the community, when there is a threat from an external source, how do we operate? On the basis of authority or out of servanthood? Hopefully, our senses lead us to wonder and then to serve. Jesus does something radical in this conversation with his followers. He commands a bold thing, turning the societal structure upside down and serving the people and the living things who are perhaps the lowliest. How are you using your senses to go out and find where to serve God? About a month ago, there was a track fire near 125th stop, which is my stop, on the ABCD line. It happened in the morning, and I had already taken the train before. But when I came home much later that day, the smell of smoke, of burning, of hot metal still hung in the air. It was eerie and a little bit scary. The smell brought prayers of thanksgiving for my safety, but also the safety of everyone. It brought prayers of thanksgiving for the MTA workers who were working nonstop. It also got me in a tizzy about not throwing trash onto the tracks. It got me picking up garbage on the platform and on the train. Is your sense of sight really being exercised? Are you looking out for all the places where you can serve?
So how will you find wonder in the world and in God's creation? Think of those responses from our young people, even at the beginning today, where they see wonder in the world. Maybe even think back to your own childhood. What does it look to take the position of the youth, of the youngest? And in living with that sense of wonder, what are other practices and ways of being that sense of wonder invokes? If you look in your bulletin, there's questions related to this that you can be responding to. What's fresh in your mind right now even, where you'll find wonder in creation. How you will become like the youngest and serve. Our young people, they were just flying with ideas of what to do with the earth. Even when we were like, okay, enough, they were still standing up, ready to offer more suggestions. How will you take that posture and serve? And what action steps will you and your family or your friends take to care for the earth? Feel free to jot some of those ideas down. You'll also see in the bulletin that there is a challenge going forward from today, a photo challenge. If you want to follow Allison and me on Instagram, you are invited to do so, because we're going to be posting every day, and we invite you to as well with the hashtag Care and Wonder. Hashtag Care and Wonder. It's listed in your bulletin. Our Instagram handles are in there too, but we really invite you to use this hashtag together. Starting today, we're going to be doing it through October 1st, which is when we have Blessing of the Animals Day here at Middle. In this journey, we want to look at how are we finding wonder in the earth, and how are we caring for creation together. Yes, you're invited on October 1st. You're invited every Sunday, but October 1st, you're invited to bring your pets, your furry friends, your beloved animals to be joined by Susan Muffson, who did the prayer earlier today for a blessing right on those front steps. So we want this photo journey to get us thinking about how we're responding to climate change, certainly beyond October 1st, but that's the window of time to when we'll have our animal friends here as well. Thank you, Middle. Thank you, Young and Young at Heart, for joining us for this message for all ages. Let's sing Sia Humba as we return to the pews.